to this Lunch and Learn program today. I'm sorry it had to be virtual, but there were several things that had to happen at the museum today that prevented us from actually doing it live. But I'm glad you could be with us. My name is Carl Teichman. I'm Director of Government and Community Relations with Illinois Wesleyan. And today we have the Executive Director of the Bloomington-Normal Water Reclamation District, known as BNWRD, here to talk about the clean water that everyone seems to take for granted day in, day out. Tim Ervin is the individual who's going to be with us, and he's going to talk about Bloomington-Normal, our wastewater today, past, present, and future. So Tim, thanks for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Carl. My name is Timothy Ervin, and I am the Executive Director with the Bloomington-Normal Water Reclamation District. The district is a wastewater district that serves primarily the city of Bloomington and town of Normal. Before sewage treatment, the picture on the screen is a good example of what occurred before the creation of wastewater districts throughout Illinois. The picture you're seeing is raw sewage being drained into Sugar Creek. What happened before wastewater districts were built is each of the communities would constructed their own sanitary sewer system, and the way that the method used to get rid of sewage before 1919, when the district created, was through the creeks. So creeks throughout Bloomington-Normal were used basically to push the sewage away from the city. However, one of the big issues that came up during the time, in addition to hygiene and health issues, was the creek was approximately the current creek was approximately 10 feet higher. And what this caused was a lot of flooding throughout houses, communities southwest of Bloomington-Normal. So this is, as I said before, a good example of one of these streams where raw sewage is being directly put into Sugar Creek. So what were the results of the raw sewage going into Sugar Creek? There was many unfortunate results. We had contamination of drinking wells, disease outbreaks from cholera to typhoid, and sewage was deposited in downstream yards after flooding. In 1919, the McLean County Court ordered the formation of the district. This was done after multiple lawsuits were filed by downstream property owners upset about waking up with raw sewage in their yards. What's interesting about this 1919 date is at the same time, wastewater facilities were being constructed or planned throughout our neighboring communities from Peoria, Springfield, Decatur, and Champaign. The facility, which was created in 1919, but the first operations began in 1928. The picture on the screen is the 1934 picture of the West Oakland facility, and to this date, many of the same infrastructure is being used to treat wastewater today. So what's the purpose of BNWRD? BNWRD basically removes contaminants from sewage and converts it into effluent to return to the water cycle. BNWRD takes sewage from the city of Bloomington, town of Normal, village of Downs, and portions of the Bloomington Public Township Water District. The sewage is processed through multiple processes, and at the end of the process, the water is released back into Sugar Creek. Each community operates main and trunk sewers, which convey sewage to the district-owned facilities. So what does the district look like today? Today, what the district looks like is we have two wastewater plants. We have our west plant which serves primarily central Bloomington and Normal. Our southeast plant located down by Randolph Township, which serves east of Veterans Parkway. We have almost 40 miles of interceptors. So the question is, what's an interceptor? When the district was created, the district, number one, they channelize the creeks. And number two, with all those sewers from the city and town ending at the creeks, the district laid what we call interceptors to bring the sewage to the treatment plant. These interceptors are sized 5 feet, 6 feet tall. They're significant height, but they're designed to carry the flow generated by the multiple residents, commercial, and industry to the wastewater plant located at 2015 West Oakland. What's interesting is these interceptors use gravity. So when you see sewer interceptors, you will notice that they are oftentimes along creeks because that allows nature to push the sewage to flow down naturally. Other facilities we include is we have a combined sewer overflow lagoon. We have excess flow capacity, Caroline grit chamber, and we have pump stations in addition to a 240-acre tree farm located by Shirley. We currently have 35 employees. The West wastewater plant can process 22.5 million gallons per day. In 2021, we averaged 13.3 MGD. The Southeast plant is 7.5 MGD. In 2021, we averaged 4.2 MGD. These are pictures of both of our wastewater treatment plants. You can see the West Oakland plant, which was the original plant, which began operations in 1928. You can see it looks different from the 1934 picture because this side of the facility was added during the 70s and 80s. And this is our Southeast plant, the 7.5 MGD located near Randolph. This plant was constructed for about 62 million back in the 2005. And this plant includes wetlands used to remove phosphorus from our effluent. So how does a wastewater district operate? The Federal Clean Water Act basically provides authority to the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency to issue what we call NPDES permits. That's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. What's interesting is each of these permits provides the basis for the district operating. What I mean by that is the NPDES permits establishes our water quality standards, as well as it has a variety of requirements from public notices to our times of ultraviolet UV disinfection. So really it is the Bible of the operations at the wastewater plant. You can see everything from pre-treatment to daily and weekly testing to our CSO control policies, and even our land application of our biosolids are monitored and regulated through the NPDES permit. So the wastewater process overview. How is wastewater processed? It always starts off with raw sewage. And for our industrial and commercial clients, they may have on-site pre-treatment programs. These programs treat the sewage before the sewage at these facilities enters into a city or town sanitary sewer. What these pre-treatment programs do is they're removing contaminants inside the sewage to a level that the district can process. So when sewage comes to the district, we go through what's called preliminary treatment. This is where the sewage is screened. We basically take the sewage through a series of screens where we're removing everything from bricks to rock, just any solids that can potentially damage our pumps or any processes within the plant. Then we go to primary treatment, where we use large clarifiers to basically settle out the dissolvable solids and to skim off the grease and fats contained in sewage. At both of these levels, the grease, fats, the biosolids go into our anaerobic digester, where we are basically taking the solids, we're heating them at a 95-degree temperature. And by doing this for 14 days, we are killing a lot of the contaminants. Following primary treatment, we go to secondary treatment, where the interesting thing with wastewater treatment is it's a biological process. So what we do is we actually grow microorganisms that we can put in with the raw sewage. The microorganisms eat the contaminants. Finally, we go to tertiary treatment, where we use sand filters to take out what we call fluff, any remains, any leftover material. And an interesting item not on here is then we go to disinfection. The district uses disinfection to basically take a lot of the bad cells that make it through the entire process, and we use UV to basically prevent the mitochondria within each cell, a typhoid, a cholera cell. We prevent it from replicating it. So as it goes into the streams, it quickly dies. And then with our biosolids, you will see we land apply our biosolids to farm fields throughout McLean County. The biosolids, the application of them, as you can see back here, is actually governed by the Illinois Administrative Code, which provides the regulations we need to comply with. In terms of organizational overview, the district exists to serve residents. We have a 3-person board of trustees. We have an executive director. We have a director of maintenance, lab, engineering, and we also have administration from a HR manager, finance manager, and a safety manager. In terms of budget, the district has approximately 7 funds, which are categorized into 3 categories. Operating is our largest area, where we commit $11.1 million a year. Our capital is our next largest, which is approximately 8.8, and our debt service consists of 4.3 million. So what's our revenue by source? The district has basically 2 primary sources of revenue. Number 1, it's user charges. Each municipality includes a district's usage charge on the monthly water invoice. The usage charge is based on water usage. The tax levy is about 5.2 million, and the district has a tax levy on the McLean County that we file through McLean County. The interesting note is 85% of this tax levy is capped off by the percentage of EAB of the community. So the tax levy actually contains property tax caps. We have connection fees, which are a smaller element, and these are whenever a new building is built, they pay a connection fee to hook into the sewer system. We have the personal property replacement tax, as well as other sources of revenue such as septic haulers, leachate. An example of a water bill and the tax levy is on the left side, you'll see the City of Bloomington water bill. You can see down here where it says sewer BNWRD. This portion of the monthly water bills pays for the wastewater treatment facility, as well as maintenance and operations of our interceptors. Where you see sewer Bloomington, this section of the water bill actually pays for the sewers located in various neighborhoods. So what's our rate in terms of user fees? The district has a fixed rate of $7.94 a month for billable flow up to 2,000 gallons and $2.20 per 1,000 gallons in excess of 2,000. On the right side of the page, you'll see the property tax allocation for the city of Bloomington. You will notice District 87 is 61, the city is 13, the county is 11. The wastewater district gets 2 cents for every dollar paid in property taxes, similar to the airport, the library, and the township. So what are the district's expenses? The district basically has 6 types of expenses. The largest expense we have is our general operating fund, which is approximately 11 million. These other funds, including the equipment replacement fund, our capital fund, and our nutrient fund, these 3 funds here, in addition to the Southeast Construction Fund, are used for capital investment. So these funds here are allocated specifically to maintain the existing infrastructure. And finally, we have 4.3 million going to existing debt service. In terms of challenges, what challenges are facing the wastewater industry? There's actually multiple areas of challenges this industry is facing. Number one, aging infrastructure. The district the district's largest wastewater plant has been in operation since 1928. We're also facing challenges with combined sewer and stormwater systems, inflow and infiltration, and weather patterns. The district is seeing a shift in weather patterns where we are seeing rainfall come at a quicker pace, as well as rainfall lasting at a quicker pace for a longer time. In terms of funding, the district faces increased cost in balancing the investments in our capital, but also meeting the needs of the community. We're facing increased expanding regulation, everything from phosphorus removal, which the district is working with IEPA and EPA to begin phosphorus removal, to a really interesting issue all communities will face is the PFAS and PFOS, the forever chemical. We're also faced with many smaller facilities are unable to comply with regulations. So there is a lot of push to regionalize, to bring incorporate smaller wastewater facilities into larger facilities, such as the ones operated by BNWRD. In terms of technology, the district is facing technology change on an annual basis. From cybersecurity to even the programs we use to run our processes, we are constantly moving to upgrade our IT backbone. Aging workforce. We're seeing it more and more difficult to find employees that are interested in becoming water operators. A water operator is actually a very hot commodity in central Illinois, with openings existing at multiple facilities. Fortunately, with BNWRD, we've been very lucky with having Wesleyan and ISU in town, where we can pull some of their environmental health professionals into our field. And finally, water scarcity. Water scarcity is going to be a primary issue going into the future. And for now, the central Illinois has water, but as the future moves forward, it's going to become a larger challenge. And then the final thing I wanted to say is just thank you everyone for attending today. And are there any questions?
Thank you, Thank you, Tim. If there's any questions, if you want to put them in the chat. Anyone has a question? And put it in the chat and we'll see if we can get it answered for you.
Okay. What I may do while we're waiting on questions is I actually have a map of our infrastructure, which,
Okay.
see the map, Jeff, by chance?
Yes, and we do have a question as well.
Okay, awesome. I'll take the question.
Okay. Do some wastewater reclamation districts put their water back into the drinking water system instead of sending it down a river?
That's a good question. A lot in Illinois, you don't see that process as much. On the West Coast, on the East Coast, it's becoming more and more popular. There have been studies that BNWRD and the city has done in regards to using some of our effluent to regenerate the lakes, but the processes the studies haven't really moved forward. And one of the biggest issues we have in looking at with our water at the moment is phosphorus. The district's phosphorus contains 2 to 3 milligrams per liter. By 2045, the district has to go to a 0.5 milligrams per liter. Once the phosphorus is removed, that option will become a more likely to occur.
Okay, Tim, we have another question.
Yes.
This is sure a popular one for myself as well, the PFAs and PFOS. What are the forever chemicals?
The forever chemicals, it's really an emerging topic. You've seen where it's making national news, it's making state news. It's basically a chemical that it's everywhere. It's been used in multiple processes from rain gear to Teflon. It's minute plastics that are getting into our water system. And one of the interesting things is wastewater plants we can take approximately 98% of contaminants out of water. Unfortunately, similar to pharmaceuticals, PFAS and PFOS microplastics, there's no process in place at the moment to remove those, similar to pharmaceuticals, from the effluent of wastewater plants. I know the Department of Defense is putting, and the federal government and states putting a lot of money in the research, but the research it's not there yet.
Okay. The next one, I think you touched on this a little bit in your presentation. How is wastewater calculated for residential bills? And is it just based on the incoming water meter usage?
Yes, it's basically based on the incoming water meter usage. And let me get back to my presentation. Basically, what happens is the sewer is based on your water usage. So if you use 2,000 gallons a month, you pay $7.94. If you use 3,000 gallons per month, you would pay $7.94 plus $2.20. I know a lot for sewers not calculated on like fire protection lines. I know sewers not calculated on water or irrigation lines, but it's on the main lines of the houses or the commercial or industrial facilities.
Okay, thank you. We have another one here, if you could. Would you elaborate a bit on the current phosphorus mandate? What are the environmental agencies requiring and potential costs for that?
Yes, what we're looking at is, if you go back up here, the federal EPA has basically ordered the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency to look at reducing phosphorus in wastewater and agriculture. One of the interesting notes is phosphorus amounts in water, wastewater and agriculture has caused or has led to what they call the Gulf hypoxia algae outbreaks. The district currently takes in 5 to 7 milligrams per liter at our west plant of phosphorus. And this comes from everything from soda, and from citizens, residents drinking soda and our foods, but it also comes from the chemicals that citizens apply to the lawns for lawn care. When our processes can take phosphorus down to 2 to 3 milligrams per liter, and under our NPDES permit recently issued, we've been told we have to, at the west plant, we have to go down to a 0.5 milligrams per liter by 2035. What this is going to require is it's going to require an extensive upgrade of our west plant, and our southeast plant, we're required to do the upgrades for phosphorus removal in 2030. In terms of cost, at the southeast plant, we're looking at approximately 27 million, where we're going to be upgrading the aeration tanks, the headworks, the lift stations to be able to handle the phosphorus removal. At the west plant, it's a much larger deal. Wastewater facilities are the most significant investment of infrastructure in communities. In fact, the west plant for the longest time held the record of the most expensive infrastructure project in McLean County. And our southeast plant currently holds the record at 62 million. We're looking at to renovate this facility approximately 150 to 175 million. The way we're looking at funding it is we're looking at state revolving loan funds, and we're also looking at what's called WIFIA funds through the Environmental Protection Agency. So I know the designs are currently underway for the southeast plant. We're expecting to start construction late next year, and we're looking at starting design of the new facility at Oakland Avenue next year. But these requirements are in our NPDES permit, and in order for us not to violate our permit, it's a mandatory change.
Okay. I have another one here. How is wastewater calculated? I think we did that one. There was one relative to, where did it go? Here it is. Okay, so for people who are on septic systems in more rural areas, do the septic companies have their own water reclamation process, or do they bring it to you?
They actually bring it to us. We take septics from any company in McLean County. When we bring it to us, we actually test it for pH, because one of the issues we have is we don't want to take the septic, a bad septic system, and put it in with our sewage. So we have different ways we monitor it coming in, but we do take septic from all septic facilities in McLean County.
Okay. All right, I'm looking here. I don't see any more questions now. Any more questions?
If I could, Jeff, if I could show you our map real quick, I think you'll
Yes, please.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
So this is a map of the district. Everywhere where you see a red line is an interceptor. So you can see our main wastewater plant is here on Oakland. We have sewer interceptors going throughout Bloomington-Normal. And what's interesting is when you match this over a river and lake or a stream map, they follow the streams. We also have a wastewater facility down here by Randolph and within Randolph Township. And this facility handles this side of Veterans Parkway. It's interesting because the district's currently in 2 watersheds. A watershed is a point where all the water flows to. This is the Sugar Creek watershed. This is the Little Kickapoo watershed. So when you look at the placement of our wastewater plants, they're based on geography. But I just think this is interesting because you can kind of see where our interceptors are. And total interceptor lengths are about 40 miles. So,
Wow, 40 miles.
yeah.
It's fascinating. I mean, it's so much that we take for granted, right?
And it's interesting because we're actually looking at a project now. This enters the east relief, the sanitary relief, the country club, and the west branch. We're actually looking at televising and cleaning. Because we're gonna, over the next 3 to 5 years, we're gonna have at least a televisor touch every sewer we own because we want to assess the condition. So that way it'll help in our long-term capital planning because many of these interceptors will be around for decades to come.
Okay. That was one of my questions you just answered. Okay.
Oh,
There are concerns about applying the biosolids on ag land because they can contain toxic chemicals such as heavy metals.
yes.
Test the sludge before it goes off for application.
Yep, before we take our biosolids to the fields, we run them through an extensive range of testing for metals, for multiple items. The sludge has to come back at a certain level. And if we don't, we will not apply it to biosolids, or we will not apply it to fields unless it meets the appropriate levels set by the IEPA and EPA.
Okay. And I had of course, a comment. So interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, there's another one here. I had a question about future plans. We talked about water scarcity, future plans relative to industrial and expansion in the area. Say for instance, there was a opportunity to get a battery plant here, and that didn't happen. And I was just wondering, as more of these opportunities become available, how would that affect the scarcity of water here locally?
The district works with the town of Normal, with the city of Bloomington, McLean County, and with economic development. And the city's fortunate, or the town's fortunate, to sit on the aquifer, Muhammad Aquifer. And I know the city also uses Lake Bloomington. One of the areas we're really focusing on is the district is water conservation. We're focusing on everything, on tightening our pipes up because it provides multiple benefits. Everything from it allows the sewage to flow faster. It helps flood relief. But also what we're looking at is we're looking at more of a environmental, a holistic approach, where how can we really reuse some of our effluent? Can we use it to regenerate some of the drinking water reserves? And that's a discussion that's under discussion at the state level. But as you'll see in the next few years, the district's looking at a lot of green infrastructure. We're looking at wetlands just to clean, improve the water quality of McLean County.
Okay. Yeah, in the future, we would love to create a history of water in McLean County. That's on my wish list.
Yeah,
It's fascinating. And again, like I said, who knew?
it's really interesting because our second largest expense at the district behind payroll is energy. And one of the things we're really looking at is how can we use the sun? How can we use geothermal? Can we use other forms of energy or green energy to basically help lower the expenses, the energy expenses? But we're a very critical function. And there's going to be need to have solid supply, so we can use green energy to lower our usage with the hope someday we can get net zero, but that's a long-term goal.
Net zero, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
What a challenge. So I'm gonna exit the full screen. I'm gonna see here if I don't see any more questions coming from the chat. Hang here just a second. We'll give it a second here.
I think one of the last things I would tell anyone attending or watching the video, Jeff, is we offer tours throughout the year. So if a group or we offer groups to like Rotary, to environmental groups, we offer tours to schools. If anyone's interested, give us a call, because this is a public facility and we're always anxious to kind of show citizens what they're paying for, what they're funding through their property taxes and user fees.
Okay, that's good to know. And again, we appreciate everything you do. And I just want to take the time to thank everyone for your persistence as we go through our logistics here at the museum. We're kind of moving some things around here at the museum, and we had to go Zoom here at the last minute. So we do appreciate those of you who did attend today. And we also want to thank Tori for our technology today. And we're just looking forward to learning more about this. And we'll definitely look into doing some tours ourselves here as we look at this, the future of wastewater here in McLean County. Again, I think this is one of the more fascinating ones I've been involved in. So again, we appreciate it. Carl had to step off today, but we also want to say we definitely appreciate the partnership with Illinois Wesleyan University. And that said, we'll remind you that next month, December 8th, our Lunch and Learn will be a seasonal choral music with Scott Ferguson, professor of music at Illinois Wesleyan. And he's also director of the IWU Collegiate Choir. And I'll just warn you folks ahead of time that there will be a sing-along at this event. So, and it will be broadcast live, I believe, on the museum's YouTube channel. So with that, I'll bid you a good day, and everybody have a safe and enjoyable Thanksgiving holiday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.